Hi, my name is Brigid. I'm a member at Calvary, and this is my story. Jeff and I were married in October 2010, and when we were married, he was a recovering addict. Despite his sobriety, the first 3 years of our marriage were really difficult because he also had major depression, and it controlled everything about our lives. In March of 2014, he had gotten to a place of just hopelessness and didn't care about life. It was a very dark place. I'd never seen him this depressed before, and unfortunately it led to his relapse. But God was so faithful. I had so many people praying for me. I immediately reached out to people for prayer because I knew that that is absolutely what I needed to get through this time. Over the next couple of weeks, he would continue to show me through people and through their prayers that he redeems everything, that God does work for the good of those that love him, all things, and that he can bring beauty out of ashes. After 40 days in jail, Jeff was bonded out through a series of total miracles, and he went right from jail to a treatment facility where he was not only treated for substance abuse issues but also mental health issues. So the first time in our marriage, he was finally treated for major depression. He was kind, he was focused, he was happy. He even found it was strange to feel happy. And then in April of 2015, I found out I was pregnant. So we were absolutely ecstatic. God answered, again, the desires of my heart, and I was going to have a baby. Levi was born mid-January 2016, and Jeff was there. God had given us the desires of our heart for a child, the desires of our heart for Jeff to be there, and we were incredibly happy. We knew that it was all God, and we were so thankful. We dedicated Levi to the Lord, and we just gave him all the glory. So it was an amazing year. I ended that year I couldn't even believe all of the beauty that God had done and all the way that he had just redeemed the pain of the previous year and a half. And I was really excited to see what the next year was going to have for us. But May 1st, 2017 changed everything. It was the day that the joy died and the chaos came. Jeff had relapsed. Why? I don't know. If you asked him, he couldn't even tell you. We had everything we ever wanted, but the pain that he carried was just too much for him. The next 10 months would be the most traumatic of my life, filled with fear and betrayal and pain and chaos. Jeff would not become a better man. He would not go to rehab and become a better man. Instead, Jeff would steal from us, cheat on us, lie to us, use us, manipulate us. He would find his love for cocaine and his new love for heroin a far greater attraction than the love that he had waiting for him at home. Jeff had taken this beautiful life that we had, and he had jumped off a cliff, leaving Levi and I as the collateral damage. By September 2017, we were divorced, and a week before our divorce was finalized, he had committed another crime, and he was arrested. By March 2018, I was afraid for my life. Jeff had become incredibly aggressive and threatening in his conversations, and I would no longer let him see Levi. I had no idea who this man had become, and I was even less sure of what he was capable of. Jeff was supposed to be sentenced on March 16, 2018, and he was supposed to enter prison on that day. Jeff did not show up to court on March 16, 2018. My nightmare did not end that day. I did not have closure. I did not get the peace that I thought I could only get with him being incarcerated. Literally every single day for the last 10 months had been filled with crisis and chaos, and I needed peace. I craved peace, and I believed that if Jeff was incarcerated, that I would find that peace. So where was God in all of this? He was there. He was there carrying me through the desert. I said on many occasions that it was only by the grace of God and the prayers of his saints that I could get up every single day, put one foot in front of the other, go to a crisis-filled job where I made decisions daily about the safety and well-being of children, and then came home and took care of my son. I knew this was God because I wanted to give up. God did not come through with a miracle turnaround of Jeff. God did not save our marriage. God did not return the man who had loved Levi so well but God did answer prayers. In those 10 months, countless terrible things could have happened but didn't. I didn't lose my house. I could always pay my bills. Jeff didn't hurt anyone, and he didn't die. He overdosed twice in that time, and both of those times he was saved. Levi was kept safe. I was kept safe. And I had countless friends and coworkers and people at Calvary holding me up in prayer. So I knew that God was carrying me, but what I failed to recognize was that my peace was not going to be found in my circumstances, and that my peace could only come from God. So I finally took a day off for myself and spent a day to myself for the first time since Levi had been born over 2 years earlier. I dropped him off at family's, went for a run, stopped at the store. I left the parking lot of the store, and the tire pressure gauge light was on in my car. I didn't think too much of it, and then I pulled in the driveway, and I got in my car, and I could hear air literally spewing out of my car, out of my tire. I thought, this is not in my plans. This is not relaxing. This will not bring me peace. I called my dad, asking for help, which of course he did, for his hysterically crying daughter. He took the tire away, and I went to my room, and I just remember saying, why, God? Why can't I just have one day of peace? Just one day. I remember standing in my room, and I could hear music playing from the living room, and a song from Lauren Daigle came on called Once and For All, and the lyrics just absolutely pierced my heart. O Lord, let this be where I die, my Lord with thee crucified. Be lifted high as my kingdoms fall, once and for all, once and for all. My kingdoms had gotten in the way of my view of God, of his peace, of his goodness, and I committed to not rest in the peace of my circumstances, which is not true peace at all, but in the giver of peace himself. My dad came back with a mended tire and the cause for the puncture, an Allen wrench. What are the chances of an Allen wrench puncturing a tire? The chances are not very high unless the Allen wrench is positioned in just the right way that it's not going to fall over. I knew that that was no coincidence. God wanted to get my attention because he knew that I needed to understand where true peace came from. He knew I needed to know that in order to get through the next months that were going to continue to be painful. By the end of March 2018, Jeff had turned himself in and was incarcerated. It was over. I had survived the last 10 months with its crisis, chaos, and pain, but I had not processed any of it. How do I start feeling when I've trained myself to literally suppress the deepest pain that I've ever experienced? How do I start grieving now that it's a more convenient time to grieve? What's normal for me? How do I parent alone? And the biggest question that I had no idea, but I wanted so desperately to have answered was, when will I return to joy? I'm still trying to work through many of those questions, still trying to process pain and memories that come on me suddenly, still trying to figure out how to single parent, still trying to figure out how to navigate this relationship with my ex-husband. So many things I am still trying to figure out, but I think I know the answer to my big question, and that is, I will return to joy when I forgive. Forgive Jeff for the pain, the betrayal, the lies, the threats, the infidelity, the chaos, the abandonment, and the trauma. Where do I begin to forgive? How to forgive? I want to forgive. I want to be free of the pain and the anger, and I want so desperately to return to joy. I forgive out of the power and grace that God showed me forgiveness, and I live out that forgiveness by the grace of God and the prayers of the saints. Prison has not made Jeff a humble and contrite man. If it had, forgiveness would be easier. But it's really, really hard when the words still cut and the expectations still remain and the selfishness is so profound. Forgiveness is so, so hard, but God has recently convicted me of my need to forgive, to really forgive. I have lived in the wilderness for almost 2 years, but I really believe that God is bringing me into places of abundance and peace. And I know that the final step out of the wilderness is forgiveness. It is the last and most important step to returning to joy. I am praying for this forgiveness, and others are praying for this breakthrough as well. And I know that I will only truly have forgiveness and be able to live out forgiveness through the prayers of others. Prayer is the manna. It is what feeds us when we feel like we are clawing our way through the desert. I would not have survived the last couple of years if it had not been for prayer. The Son of God believed prayer was essential for daily life, and He is the way, the truth, and the life. I desire to be a woman of prayer, a woman of forgiveness, a woman of joy, and a woman of God. And that's my story.